Okay, no more speakers. I'll move to the vote. Motion 61. Will all those in favour please show? Thank you. Will all those against please show? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. I now call paragraph 4.3 and motion 68, future-proofing UK maritime skills and training. The General Council support the motion. It will be moved by Nautilus International, seconded by RMT. I won't be taking any speakers. Thanks.
President, Congress, Ian Mackenzie speaking on behalf of Nautilus International, moving motion 68, future-proofing the maritime skills and training. The UK is a maritime nation. Our economy, our security, our global standing, they all depend on the sea. From the merchant ships that kept us supplied in wartime, to the ferries, container ships and tankers that keep our economy moving today. 95% of all the goods we have comes by sea. Our seafarers have always been essential, but today the future of our maritime workforce is under threat. The sector contributes billions to our economy. It supports the best part of 1 million jobs and moves almost all of our trade. Yet despite this vital role, the government continues to fall short on its commitment to maritime growth and investment. There's a growing gap in training funding, one that's proving harder and harder to fill. Employers, training providers and unions are already making sacrifices to keep training afloat. But this burden cannot be carried by the industry alone. Without government support, we risk losing the next generation of maritime professionals. This isn't just about the officer training. Ratings, who are the skilled seafarers who form the backbone of every vessel, face even greater challenges. Theirs is limited funding, conflicting career pathways and little recognition of their essential role. If we're serious about building a future ready for maritime workforce, we must support everyone on board. Training provision is fragmented. Providers operate without direct accountability to the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency or the Department for Transport. That leads to inconsistent standards, poor outcomes. We need a single national maritime training provider, one that's coordinated, accountable and focused on quality. And the UK tonnage tax, it was meant to incentivise ship owners to register their vessels under the UK flag. But it's outdated now. The number of UK flags has fallen. UK flagged vessels has fallen, and the tax regime no longer delivers the training and employment it promised. Reform must tie the benefits to real commitments, training and employing UK resident seafarers and flying the red ensign with pride. Congress, despite all the rhetoric about growth and ambition, this government refuses to commit the funding needed to drive a better maritime future. It praises our seafarers, but it won't invest in their training. That's not good enough. That's why we need 100% smart funding and a minimum training allowance to support trainee maritime professionals, recognising the significant economic return. So that's £4.80 to gross domestic product for every £1 invested. The establishment of a single national maritime training account provider accountable to the MCA and DFT to ensure the consistent high-quality training provision. A comprehensive review of the UK tonnage tax to incentivise ship owners to register vessels on the UK flag and provide quality onboard training and subsequent employment to British seafarers. These measures are crucial for securing a steady stream of highly skilled maritime professionals, supporting a just maritime transition and revitalising the nation's maritime industry, its contribution to the national security and resilience. So I ask you, Congress, stand with us. Stand with the young people who dream and deserve a career at sea. Standing with the ratings who keep our ships running, with the coastal communities who depend on the maritime jobs. Stand with the seafarers who keep this country moving. Support this motion. Let's build a maritime future that's skilled, secure and just. I move.
Thank you, Ian. RMT, please. Bang on time, wasn't it? Was it bang on time? Not good if they don't.
Dave Watkin, RMT, second in motion 68, first time delegate, first time speaker.
Well done, Dave.
Brothers, Sisters Congress, I'm a serving merchant seafarer of over 30 years, and that's why I'm proud to second motion 68, moved by my fellow seafaring comrades at Nautilus. Just to clarify, a ship's crew is made up of two groups of workers. We have the officers. These are made up of such ranks as captains, chief engineers, first officers, mates, and the ship's engineers. That second group of workers, the ratings, this is where I work. These are grades such as deckhands, cooks, stewards, boatswains, and most importantly, the ship's mess person, which if you've ever worked at sea, that is the most important person on the ship. The reason I need to clarify these two groups of workers is due to how these groups of workers' apprenticeship schemes are funded. The Smart Apprenticeship Scheme came into force in 1998, the tonnage tax scheme in 2001. For 20 years, these state-backed schemes have guaranteed a regular annual supply of trained UK officers, but next to nothing for ratings who are more likely to be employed on exploitative P&O-style contracts. The Maritime Skills Commission was clear in its 2023 report on barriers to ratings training that things need to change. The MSC has called for allowing smart funds to be used to fund rating apprenticeships, reform the tonnage tax to effectively deliver training opportunities for UK ratings, improve increased training employment for UK ratings, especially in the offshore and wind sector. It takes 3 years and costs employers an average of £68,000 to train an officer cadet, and the SMART scheme already covers 50% of employers' costs under reforms introduced by the Tory government. Ratings training, due to the state support, is more expensive than officers' training. Some employers, especially in the crew sector, use this as an excuse to continually employ cheap international crew ratings rather than committing to training and employing UK ratings. Over the last 24 years, 14,600 UK cadets have been trained on tonnage tax ships, but only 115 UK ratings. Only 60 deck ratings were trained in the UK in 2024, mostly at public sector employers such as Calmac Ferries or the Royal Fleet Auxiliaries. Stena the FDS and other ferry operators are working with the RMT on rating training programmes, and this is welcomed. Ship owners have benefited to the tune of nearly £3 billion in relief from corporate tax. Currently, UK ratings number statistics were under 10,000, while the number of non-EEA nationals employed in rating positions in UK shipping soared to £114,000. Pro-sea reform of the Smart Apprenticeship Scheme must be undertaken alongside amendments to the tonnage tax that deliver a fair deal for UK ratings. A progressive policy of supporting UK ratings training to create jobs and rebalance the maritime skill base in the interest of our working class communities and the national security of the needs of an island nation. Congress, comrades, I ask you to support this motion. Diolch and thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Great job. First time speaker. Well done, Dave. Okay, move the motion now. Vote on motion 68. Will all those in favour please indicate? Thank you. Will all those against please show? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, I now call paragraph 4.1, 4.2 and composite 10, AI and the creative industries. The General Council support the motion. It's moved by Equity, seconded by Musicians Union, supported by the NUJ, supported by AUE and Prospect. I won't be taking any additional speakers. Equity, please.
Thank you, President. Conference, Howell Morgan from Equity moving composite motion C10 on generative AI and creative workers' rights. First time delegate, first time speaker. Thank you. Conference, my grandfather, Jack, was a miner. I never met him because he died from pneumoconiosis when my father was 11. So perhaps it's fitting that the first time I address Congress, it's time to talk about the existential dangers of another kind of mining, but I'll come back to that. The creative industries accounted for over 5% of the UK's gross value added in 2024. That's around £123 billion to the UK economy. Creative workers are the backbone of the UK's world-leading performing arts and entertainment industry, yet they often find themselves in precarious working conditions. Take the supporting artist that I spoke to on set in Liverpool 2 years ago. He'd been working on a well-known science fantasy series for a global streaming company. You know, the sort of thing, leather, swords, dragons. Now, when he was told that they wanted to do a 3D body scan of him in full costume, he felt flattered. It was a novelty. But once the process was complete, he asked, "What can you do with that then?" "Oh, we can do anything with this," said the operator. "We can put you into any scene we want." That supporting artist did 1 day's work on the production. In the past, he could have expected a week or more. Or take the voiceover artist, who was engaged by a company that specialized in text-to-speech technology. She understood that her voice would be used to assist visually impaired readers to access educational content and would not be sold forward without her consent. Despite this, the company created an AI voice that had been trained on her voice data and sold it to ScotRail, who used it for onboard announcements on their trains. Or take the actor, whose voice and image was captured to create an avatar that could be controlled and manipulated using AI. He later found his voice and image was being used to spread misinformation and propaganda by the Venezuelan government on social media. These are the canaries in a data mine. So, what can this conference do to protect creative workers' rights? Well, firstly, we're asking you to adopt the excellent TUC manifesto, AI for Creative Workers, which outlines the minimum protections that all creative workers need. But these terms are proving to be hard-won. In America, the Screen Actors Guild went on strike for 118 days, the longest strike in the history of Hollywood, and they won. But Equity are currently negotiating for the most strongest and comprehensive terms in AI in the screen industry worldwide. We need engagers to agree licensing and royalty regimes fit for this new technology and to commit to transparency on how they use performers' work. And after 14 months of negotiations, we've still not secured those protections. So we're readying for industrial action here. We're also asking for your support to lobby the government for legislation. The Danish government have proposed legislation to cover artists, public figures and ordinary people from digital identity theft. This law will be the first to legally recognise a person's identity as intellectual property, one that cannot be copied, cloned or digitally manipulated without consent. And with Denmark about to begin the presidency of the EU, we can expect this to be high on their agenda. So we need to work with the Information Commissioner's Office to push for improved enforcement of data rights in respect of generative AI. And finally, we need to campaign against the government's introduction of the text and data mining exception to copyright protection, because this affects all creative workers, from the supporting artists at the coalface to the world-renowned performers, musicians and writers. Oxford University's Institute for Ethics in AI warned that the government must not pit creative industries against big tech companies. If this government see that AI is the golden goose that rescues the economy, they're wrong. Because it's not the global tech companies that copy, clone, or digitally manipulate others' data that they've mined, but the workers who create the original, innovative and unique content in the first place that are the seam of gold. So, conference, let's tell government that this seam is not to be mined without consent, without remuneration and without legislation. Let's tell them resoundingly that without transparency, without protection and without respect, the creative industries are unsuitable for miners. I move.
Bang on time, Huel. That's a cracking intervention from a first-time speaker, first-time delegate. Thank you, Huel. Seconded by Musicians Union, please.
Hi there. See the podium go down a bit. Hi, I'm General Secretary of the Musicians Union. My name's Naomi Pole. Music streaming has been great for consumers. $11.99 a month for all of music in your pocket. but it has seriously devalued the work of musicians' union members. When live music stopped during the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns, it became clear that the recorded music industry wasn't playing its part in sustaining the careers of musicians. Musicians receive just a tiny share of streaming revenue, if they get anything at all. The vast majority of money that we pay to streaming platforms ends up with major corporations and their shareholders. In fact, Lucian Grange, who's the CEO of Universal Music based in the States, had a bonus of £110 million in a year when all of the UK's songwriters and composers made less than that in total from UK streaming revenues. And session or non-featured musicians, the backing musicians on tracks that we all love, including orchestral musicians, get no streaming royalties at all. I met a musician on Friday who's played on 42 #1 tracks, and for some of them he was paid just £12 to go into the studio. If you listen to the radio in your kitchen or your car or anywhere, these backing musicians get guaranteed royalties. But if you stick on a playlist on Spotify, they get nothing at all. The government has promised an AI bill which will cover music and other copyright materials being used to train AI systems. AI-generated music will not only devalue MU members' work, it could actually replace them altogether. So what we need is an AI bill that reforms copyright and ensures that our members are paid royalties for all uses of their performances, so that can cover music streaming as well as artificial intelligence. Let's ensure that human musicians who are working people earning on average just £20,000 a year receive fair payment from the major corporations that profit from their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Can I call the National Union of Journalists next, please?
Thank you, President. Fran McNulty, National Union of Journalists, Joint President, first-time delegate and first-time speaker as well. Happily supporting this composited motion. Delegates, my late mother often used a phrase, borrow from Peter to pay Paul, a biblical reference. Taking from two of the disciples was pretty fair game for an Irish Catholic mother. But big tech is no Irish mammy, and it is no disciple either. Big tech might beg from Peter, and it does, but it doesn't tend to pay Paul. We saw the potential impact of AI just yesterday as news emerged that Reach plc is to cut over 300 jobs across its titles, just weeks after cuts were announced to sports journalists too. Our members will suffer at the Daily Mirror, at the Star and the Express, as well as in dozens of other local and regional titles across the UK. Delegates, journalism is a human endeavour. AI cannot fill that gap. And this Congress should be alarmed by the approach adopted by big tech, which seeks financial gain at the expense of rights holders. As a union representing journalists and media workers, we're asking Congress to support this motion and the NUJ's AI campaign, urging an end to rights holders' copyright breaches by big tech. When big tech steals data and content, developers must be mandated to reveal sources of their training data. This will allow journalists, and in particular freelance journalists, to seek redress. Any upcoming legislation must require rights holders to opt in, not opt out, for use of their work. Of course, there is a simple solution. As mis and disinformation is promoted by some AI technologies, governments can play a crucial role through sustainable funding of the BBC and public service media generally. But AI is not all bad. In recent weeks, a friend of mine and a colleague had breast cancer diagnosed by AI, a tiny speck of cancer so small it couldn't be detected by humans, and that will make her cancer journey a little easier. In that case, healthcare workers were assisted by AI for good. The same must be the case across all industries when it comes to AI, and the use of AI within journalism must only ever be as an assistive tool with human oversight. Policies must be produced in conjunction with unions through meaningful engagement that ensures the voices of all workers are heard. We must get in on the ground as AI policies are being developed and laws are being drafted. We as a movement must be in that room. It's too late dealing with it when AI is landing in our workplaces. We've already seen the displacement of workers, thousands upon thousands of them because of AI. Industry thinks AI can replace workers. Workers need protection, they need support, they need a just transition where the loss of jobs is simply unavoidable. AI is here to stay, but we must protect our members, the singers, the writers, the reporters, the drivers, the council workers, everyone under threat from AI. Delegates, video didn't kill the radio star. It is our role to ensure that AI won't kill the workers either. Support this motion.
Thank you, Buggles. Thanks, Fran. Next speaker, Artists Union, please, Lorraine.
Okay, yeah, Lorraine Monk, Artists Union, supporting Composite 10. Never in human history has a technology emerged so fast, so quickly, and been so unaccountable. Global capitalism and totalitarian states have recognized AI's potential. Greed for money and power is irresistible. AI has been promoted using advertising and media manipulation that sells it as the golden money tree, while suggesting any criticism of it is out of touch and people that are really outdated. In 300 years of union history, we've always demanded legislation to protect workers' rights. Why is this so different? Unions representing creative workers are still waiting for the government to publish the response to their own consultation on the copyright and AI consultation, which was closed in March. We are certain that the creative workers said no. We know visual artists said no. We do not give permission for AI to thieve our work. They have no right to steal. However, as it wasn't the answer the government wanted, they've not declared the result. We are still waiting. Instead, they've suggested more talks with mainly AI companies. Creative workers don't need more talks. We want the government to listen. What a disgrace for a Labour government to try to rig it and then bury it. But this is just one more example of the government dragging their feet. They failed to deliver on a bill they promised to regulate AI a year ago, and now this one they're talking about is a completely different one. They refused to sign with 58 other countries an agreement to regulate AI. We instead sided with Trump's US. This is shameful. Our government giving in to the interests of large corporate companies against the interests of ordinary workers. Our union movement began by workers demanding laws to control working conditions. How is it the Labour government is so obdurate about this, doing Trump's bidding, forgetting our roots? I urge the TUC and the government to ask these questions, and you might recognise them. What power has AI got? Where did they get it from? Whose interest do they exercise it? And to whom are they accountable? AI must be regulated and controlled. Conference, support this composite. But let's go further. We need to wake up, and we need to get the government to wake up too. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you, Lorraine. Prospect, please. Final speaker in this discussion.
Congress, President. I'm Sean O'Malley, President of the BEC2 sector of Prospect, who represent live events and creative workers across the creative industries. As such, I'd like to just take a moment, if you will allow, to give thanks to the live events workers who are working to bring this conference smoothly and quietly. So thank you, guys and women. I'll now speak to the motion. We know the creative industries are a vital part of the economy, contributing to our culture, our community and regional identity, and are respected and admired across the world. The government knows this too and has named the creative sector a priority in its industrial strategy. All this is built upon a highly skilled and dedicated workforce. BEC2 crew and countless other creative workers underpin the UK's success as a global player in film, television, theatre and live performance. Very many of us work as freelancers or on short-term contracts. The rapid advancement of AI technology is shaking up the creative industries and the lives of those workforce who support it. The lack of transparency on the impact AI is having on those workers, especially those who do not have copyright or intellectual property rights, is deeply concerning. Congress, supporting this motion is a step towards protecting the livelihoods, dignity and creative contribution of all creative workers. Supporting artists are at risk of having their voice or image cloned, losing control over their very identity and future income. AI tools can generate set designs, costumes, props, lighting plots, bypassing human designers, even mimicking individual designers and technicians' style, erasing recognitions and their career prospects. AI software could replace scheduling, queue running and sound and lighting operations, de-skilling or even replacing highly skilled crew, leading to job losses and poorer production quality. Entry-level roles would be lost, undermining the future workforce and creating further barriers to entry and reducing diversity. Current contracts and employment models are pushing ever greater risk onto freelancers. AI is likely to intensify that precarity. Many do not have legal recourse if AI replicates or replaces their work. This makes the ethical guidelines and explicit protections critical. Without them, these workers are completely exposed. Consulting workers before introducing AI into backstage or technical processes should be mandatory. This motion is about the entire workforce. AI threatens to divide workers' protections if protections are not extended to all roles. We need a whole industry approach to AI regulation to secure the creative industry's future. Too often, we have seen how new technology is being used to cut roles and drive down rates. AI, without proper consultation, could decimate the careers of our members and bring about a bleak future for the industry and creative endeavour. Creative judgment and human artistry are not replaceable by algorithms. For the future of our creative industries, we must ensure human creative value is given the protection it deserves. Congress, Prospect supports this motion.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, that's it. No more speakers. I move to the vote. Composite 10. Will you, all those in favour, please show? Thank you. With all those against, please show. Fantastic. That's carried. Unanimous. I now call Composite 11, AI in the Future, World of Work, including the finance sector. The General Council support the motion. It's going to be moved by Community, seconded by Aegis, supported by USDOR. And I will take a couple of speakers. I'm going to take the CSP and the CWU, so please stand by. Community, please.
Hello, everyone. Okay. My name is Kelvin Miles. I work for the West Brom, the Building Society, not the football club. So if anyone's looking for a signed shirt, I'm sorry, I'm not your man. The community's work with Google, although it's AI, works with the program, which has shown that there's a desire for workers to learn more about AI. And when they understand AI, they'll feel more confident in talking to their employers about AI, how it should be used and implemented in the workplace. It is vital that we work with our employers to ensure that the entry pathways into the workplace is not closed off through the introduction of AI. As the use of AI grows, we need to make sure that these roles and pathways do not evaporate, because if we lose our pipelines into the work, we're simply building up problems in our industries for the future, and this is not that new talent can enter our workforces. We need to work with the government to ensure that we have a robust apprenticeship programs that embedded AI with them, so we have a way for young people to enter the finance workforce. And beyond, with modern skills, they need to work with the modern world. But this is not just government that needs to play a part. We have to ensure that a role we have is an implementation of AI. Employers are needed to play their part. Employers should work with unions to discuss how they want to employ AI within the workforce, to bring workers with them and make certain that the AI within the workplace is done to enhance workers and not replace them. That's the better road. It's better for us and for everyone else. AI is revolutioning the way in which we work. When we look at where AI was 5 years ago, where it is now, we have seen technology advance at a rate, and we have not seen the industrial revolution. AI is here. AI will always be part of our working world. And the question of whether it is or will not be the key question. The question is how. How will we implement AI in our workplaces? How will we face issues? How will we secure opportunities? How do we stand at the crossroads within our economics? And we must choose whether to go down that road where AI undermines workers, where it is to remove worker autonomy, and where it's used to monitor workers with the nuance of human compassion or sense, and where it's used to remove workers. But this is not only just a road. This is not a choice that's available to us. Another road, another future for the world is possible. We need to ensure that AI is used to enhance workers, not replace them, and through robust training and retraining for all workers, regardless of their age, can allow workers to harness AI to them. The possibility to seize opportunities provided by AI and make them work for me and you and for every worker in the AI is for every worker in the UK is still there. But we need to make a choice to go down that road. This motion that we put forward today is one of the ways that we can take a step down that road by encouraging employers to ensure that AI does not limit entryways for young people in the finance sector and beyond, to offer training and opportunities to all workers, regardless of their age, are prepared for the new world of work, to ensure that the responsible AI policies are implemented, preventing under surveillance, and finally engage with the government to make sure all this is possible. The vision of AI does not need to be our vision. It's just the vision of our reality and what our children will face. A different future for the world and work is possible. We need to get on the right road and support this motion. Thank you, Congress.
Thank you, Kelvin. Thank you. Well done, brother. Aegis, please. Brian. Hi, Brian.
President, Congress, Brian McDade, Assistant General Secretary of Aegis, supporting this motion. AI is no longer just a buzzword. It is already transforming the way we work. In the finance sector, where Aegis represents thousands of members, 75% of firms are already deploying AI, with another 10% planning to adopt it within the next 3 years. But while employers talk about innovation and efficiency, we must be clear. AI brings as many risks as it does opportunities. Studies have shown that up to 30% of jobs in finance and insurance could be highly vulnerable to automation within the next 2 decades, particularly in back office, processing, customer service, and compliance. We are already seeing AI systems monitoring workers' keystrokes and calls in the call centre, creating a culture of surveillance and stress instead of support and trust. This is why unions must have a central role in shaping how AI is introduced, to ensure it complements rather than replaces workers, to secure protections against biased and opaque decision-making, and to demand training and upskilling so that workers are not left behind. For our sector, the risk could mean fewer opportunities for young people entering the industry, apprenticeships at risk, and whole pathways into financial services closing off. It could also mean the hollowing out of skills as decisions get outsourced to algorithms. And let's be honest, if left unchecked, bosses will use technology to cut costs, drive down standards, and weaken collective bargaining. But it doesn't have to be that way. AI can enhance work, not replace it. It can take away the mundane tasks and free workers to focus on value-adding creative and human-centred work. But only if unions are at the table, only if workers' voices are heard. Congress, we know that unregulated AI could worsen inequality, degrade work, and put thousands of decent jobs at risk. But with strong trade union movement and involvement, AI can be harnessed to improve productivity, raise standards, and safeguard high-quality employment. The choice is clear: a future of work shaped by corporate greed, or a future shaped by trade union values of fairness, dignity, and security. I urge you to support this motion so that our movement leads the debate and ensures that AI works for the workers, not against them. And let's be ambitious. If we succeed in embedding unions at the heart of implementing AI in the workplace, maybe one day we can unionise the AI workforce as well, but we'll leave that to a later conference. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Brian. Usdo, please.
President, Congress, Joanne Thomas, Usdo, speaking in support of the composite motion on AI and the future of work. And there are few issues as important and as urgent as this one for our movement. The combination of rapid advancements in artificial intelligence and the widespread use of automation in the workplace are fundamentally changing the nature of work. And while AI may offer many opportunities and benefits, it also brings with it real and worrying risks to workers, despite promises of more productive and more efficient workplaces. The reality is that the new technology can often intensify work, put new and unreasonable demands on workers. And now we see technology deciding who's hired and even who's fired. AI is being used to manage performance, it's being used to decide on people's working patterns, and it's being used to make decisions on disciplinary action. It's already changing the employment landscape, and there are many more changes to come, especially at a pace unlike we've ever seen before. But as a society, they are simply not preparing for workers for the future. By 2035, an estimated 7 million workers across England will lack the basic skills needed to do their jobs. And USDO's own research found that over half of the workers don't have adequate training on the use of technology in work. The government is taking action on training and skills development by reforming the apprenticeship levy through the Growth and Skills Levy, as well as bringing forward a robust strategy for post-16 education. And of course, this is a step in the right direction. But beyond this, we need proper workplace protections. We know that AI doesn't affect everyone equally. This is why we're calling for equality impact assessments, with employers identifying who is unfairly impacted by AI and taking steps to mitigate those impacts. Because all workers deserve fairness, transparency and protection. This government is already delivering on skills and employment rights, but as technology goes faster and further, our programme for change needs to go faster and further as well. We must ensure that workers aren't left behind. We must ensure that every worker can benefit from these changes in technology, and we must ensure there's a secure future for everyone at work. Congress, please support this motion.
Thank you, Joanne. And as I said, I'm going to take a couple of speakers in addition to those that have already spoken. CSP, please, and could CWU stand by? CSP.
President, Congress, my name is Dalton McGuigan, first-time speaker with the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. Artificial intelligence is here. It's not a distant prospect. It's already reshaping our services, our workplaces, and our personal lives. In 2025, AI diagnoses illnesses, drafts contracts, and assists in policymaking. On a personal level, it's helped me with timetabling, with service development projects, and to even edit this very speech. Its potential is vast. But let us be clear, AI is not neutral. It reflects the values of those who build it and the choices of those who use it. Without vigilance, it's as likely to deepen inequality as it is to drive progress. And we see both sides already. On one hand, AI offers enormous promise, faster medical analysis saving lives, the automation of dangerous repetitive work. And on the other hand, it poses real risks. We see jobs being reshaped and threatened. The IMF warns that AI could affect up to 40% of jobs globally. That's over 1.3 billion jobs. Workers without access to training and digital tools risk being left behind completely. Bias in algorithms can reinforce discrimination instead of dismantling it. And surveillance technologies threaten our privacy, our dignity, and our trust. So the question before us is not whether AI will transform society. It already is. The question is, will we shape this transformation for the common good or allow it to widen the divide between us? We need policies to ensure that workers are protected. AI should enhance our work, not undermine it. We need unions at the table when AI is introduced so that workers' voice can shape that change. We need regulation strong enough to guard against bias and protect our rights. And we need investment in training so that no worker, no matter their background, is left behind. Technology is a tool. This will be AI's real test. How will it truly improve lives, regardless of race, gender, income, or class? Conference. How can we use AI to empower workplaces and build inclusive societies? Conference. Please support this motion.
Another terrific intervention from a first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Well done, Dalton. Okay, CWU, final speaker in this debate.
President, Congress, Trish Follen speaking on behalf of the Communication Workers Union to support C11. I believe that the previous speakers have covered pretty much, most stuff around AI issues. What I wanted to do is provide Congress with a brief overview on the impacts on the industries within the CWU. Congress, we are witnessing the fast rollout of AI systems across the telecoms, tech, finance and postal sectors. These systems are used for a wide range of functions, including recruitment, monitoring and targeting. Our postal members carry devices which constantly track their location, their walking speed, and even the length of time that they stand still. We do have agreements in place which stop this data being used as a management tool, but we need to continue to monitor that on a regular basis to ensure that those agreements are applied properly. Our contact centre members are monitored from the moment they log onto the system, and this is nothing new, but the technology is getting newer and better, and it can now rate conversation and customer satisfaction levels. It can tell advisors if they are speaking too fast, speaking too slow, not speaking happy enough, and so forth, thus impacting on performance and pay. So it goes from micromanaging to replacing old jobs. It's across the board. Referring to the CW's emergency motion for this week, TikTok have announced their plans to cut 500 jobs, replacing human moderators with AI. This is really quite serious, Congress, because trained experts are being replaced for checking exposure to harmful content. Another area to consider is AI's limitation and teething issues. Klarna, for example, replaced several hundreds of jobs with AI in 2024. In 2025, they were rehiring because of a widespread customer dissatisfaction and other reasons. But such issues won't deter organisations from using AI. BT has already announced a cut of over 40,000 jobs by the end of the decade. The CW has launched a new project to support our members and our reps to identify and address the risks of digital and AI assistance and to secure collective agreements that protect and improve. The guidance says there should be worker voice at all levels of tech decision-making, design and deployment. There should be a fair share of AI-related benefits in pay, skills, working hours, including a shorter working week. And there should be safeguards against bias, discrimination and other harms that may face our members. Congress, we recognise we are going to have job losses. We know this. But if we work together to empower our members rather than losing them, Conference, please support.
Thank you, Trish. Okay, that completes the debate on Composite 11. I'll now move to the vote. Will all those in favour please show? Thank you. Will all those opposed please show? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Congress. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker on behalf of the Labour Government, Bridget Phillipson, Secretary of State for Education and Minister for Women and Equalities. Bridget is a passionate advocate for children, learners and the education profession more broadly. In her first year as Secretary of State, Bridget has established the Improving Education Together Forum to facilitate partnership working between government, unions and employers, overseen the introduction of free school meals for families in receipt of universal credit, provided 30 hours of free childcare for all children from 9 months to 4 years, and is set to introduce sectoral collective bargaining for low-paid workers in our education system through the School Support Staff Negotiating Body included within the Employment Rights Bill. And under her leadership, Skills England, a national task force on skills, was created, a long-standing ask of the trade union movement. As a leading member of the Cabinet and a great friend of the TUC, Bridget, you are very welcome to Congress.
Thank you, Congress, for that warm welcome. What a joy it is to be back here in Brighton and to be back here with the TUC. Thank you to Mark and to Paul and to the whole team. And thank you to every single trade union rep in our country who gives up their time to ensure that workers have respect and a voice at work. I never forget the role the trade unions played in creating the Labour Party and sustaining it through triumph and adversity. And I never forget the role that trade unions have played in winning change for working people in the last 100 years, not least under Labour governments. In the department that I am proud to lead, I retrieved a bust of Ernie Bevan, one of the great trade unionists of the last century, and restored it to pride of place. It was during the Second World War that Ernie served as Minister of Labour and National Service. And in our country's darkest hour, it was the trade union movement that stepped up, that provided so many of the men and women who stepped forward to lead the change that we needed. When I took on this role, I was clear that I wanted to draw on the wisdom of the unions. And that's why I set up the Improving Education Together initiative. Union expertise, valued, not ignored. The voice of the workforce, valued, not ignored. And thank you to everyone who was fed into this initiative. Together, we are improving education. And Congress, today I want to tell you why that matters. I want to tell you two stories, one about my past and another about this country's future. My roots run deep in our working class communities, the working people of this country, the joiners, the steel workers, the cleaners, the shipbuilders, the carers, all of our public servants. Congress, I grew up on a street of council houses in Washington in the northeast. Just me and my mum. And back when I was young, a man turned up at the front door with a baseball bat. A few weeks earlier, we'd been burgled, and my mum had reported it to the police. Now, the man had come back to scare her into silence. We clearly didn't know my mum very well. Because even at 9 years old, I could have told him that he was wasting his time. She stood her ground, he went to prison. Congress, from my mum, I learned about strength, not the kind that preys on the weak. No, I learned the kind that stands up to adversity. The strength to do what's right, even when it will be easier to crumble. That street of ours had challenges, yes, of course. But there was kindness, there was compassion, so much of it. There was our neighbour who knew that we were struggling one winter and posted an envelope through the letterbox marked for Bridget's code. And I never forget that kindness. There were my grandparents too, who moved here to this country from Ireland, a happy presence in my childhood. It's from my granddad that I get my love of reading and learning, from the days when he would bounce me on my knee, book in hand. He fought on the front line for our country in the Second World War. Then was in the vanguard of the new nurses helping to build the new National Health Service under a Labour government. And so, Congress, when people ask me where my values come from, I point to my mum, to my grandparents, to my neighbours, to my community. And I know that all of you, right across our movement, in your own lives, will have those figures who have inspired and motivated you. These values that underpin our working class communities, that show why we must return this country to the service of working people. To deliver our plan for change, to build the Britain we all want to see, strong and fearless, yet kind and compassionate. A modern Britain, head held high in the world, where opportunity is open to all, where the contribution of working people is rewarded, where no one need live only to work, but where everyone can work to live. That is the future that I want for our young people today. But Congress, that journey won't be easy. I'd like you to think of two siblings today, an older brother and his baby sister, growing up on that same street that I did. The brother will cast his ballot for the first time at the next general election. He grew up under the last Tory government, born too late for the Child Trust Fund, born when Sure Start centres that had once been so many had become so few. Born when the nursery place that he and his family needed had slipped cruelly out of reach. And now, what opportunities are open to him? Does he have enough money in his pocket to enjoy the simple things in life? To buy a new jacket, a ticket to the match, a holiday with his friends? Does he see a route to a good career, a house and a family? Does he believe in his bones that if he works hard, as his parents have told him, he can get on in life? Or does he believe that for young people like him, that dream is dying? Because today, there are people in our country that want that dream to fail. They come along with their simple slogans in answer to complex problems. They come happy to scapegoat, to talk of traitors, peddling their narrative of betrayal, seeking to divide us. I can talk about the dangers we face and the need for unity, but it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. The government, just as this movement, must show, not tell. And it must sow real hope and opportunity for all of our young people. Congress, the moral mission of this government must be to build the country that that young man deserves, so that his life is lit up with choice and freedom, in control of his own destiny. His little sister is just a baby, but the fight to give her every opportunity in life must begin now. By the time she reaches school, her first chapters will already have been written. And that's why this Labour government is investing £500 million to roll out 1,000 Best Start family hubs this Parliament, to give her and her friends the best start in life, the best of Sure Start's history reimagined for our future, bringing together all of the information and support her parents need, putting her on the path to success at school even in her earliest days. And last week, our childcare revolution reached new heights. Her parents can now access 30 hours of government-funded childcare every week, right from the end of parental leave up to her first day at school, a massive moment in our plan for change. And we'll reach over 500,000 families this term, helped by our school-based nurseries and providers across the country. £7,500 a year back into parents' pockets. And freedom as well to work the hours they want. The cost of childcare no longer pricing parents out of their dream job, a higher salary or a better life. And when that little girl arrives at primary school, there's a new free breakfast club ready to welcome her. Working mums and dads tell me how much that means. That extra £450 back in their pockets, together with the free childcare, up to almost £8,000 a year. And that's not just a number on a page. It's about not feeling sick with worry if your washing machine packs up. It's not making do with cold showers if your boiler breaks. It's about being able to say yes to an ice cream in the park, a trip to the beach, or an afternoon at the cinema. But our Breakfast Clubs Congress, they go further. They build the belief that children belong in school. And that matters perhaps now more than ever. There are some families in this country, some communities even, where that faith is fading. Young people unable to even imagine a promising future, let alone grasp it. School didn't work for their parents. Why should it work for them? Congress, our schools have come so far, driven forward by our amazing school workforce. But there are still groups of children in our society for whom school just isn't working. Like children with special educational needs and disabilities. More likely to be suspended, less likely to do well in English and maths. It's frankly unacceptable, and it is a similar story for our working class children too. Lower attainment, lower life chances. But I refuse to lower my expectations. Congress, I'll tell you why I'm so passionate about our schools. Because schools, and often our schools alone, are the pathway to opportunity for working class kids. And I know it because I lived it. I know what it takes to go from a tough street of council houses into the cabinet. Great schools, fantastic teachers, a strong sense of community. And I want to thank from the bottom of my heart every single person right across our country who works in our schools. Our support staff, our teachers, our school meals workers, leaders, cleaners, caretakers, every one of you, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. The success of our children depends on so much more. Alongside everything you do, I know there is much to achieve. I had a family steeped in the proud working class tradition of learning, of self-improvement. The same tradition that saw miners' halls in my community with libraries stocked with books, journals and newspapers. The same tradition that sees banners lifted every year at the big meeting in Durham, proclaiming the universal immortal truth that knowledge is power. The same tradition that sees Union Learn colleagues fight for the learning of your members. Now, Congress, I was lucky. I know I was. But life should not come down to luck. I think of that young man today from my community, growing up in Britain today. Where is the proof that education is the route to prosperity for him when he sees just 1 in 5 children like him getting a strong pass in English and maths at GCSE? And I tell you this, Congress, not just as Education Secretary, but on behalf of this government as a whole. Because this isn't just a mark of the health of our schools, but the health of our society. When we deny our working class kids the opportunity their talent demands, we deny the country the chance of a brighter future. Wages lower, work less secure, growth on the floor. And that breeds resentment, Congress. Dark clouds hanging over our towns and cities. So when I say that I'm determined to build a school system that works for every child, that delivers excellence and opportunity for every child, I mean it. The Chancellor means it, the Prime Minister means it. And we'll set out the change we will deliver through our new Schools White Paper. But I can tell you now, Congress, that this government will drive high and rising standards in every school in this country. No compromise, no exception, strong on standards for our working class kids. That means strong accountability and strong support for our schools. Over 200 of the schools which need that support the most, are now getting it through our new Regional Improvement or RISE teams. And today I announce that that number will almost double. almost 100,000 more pupils across the country will benefit. Expert support from the best in our school system. Just as we are putting our economy back in the service of working people, we are putting our schools back in the service of working people. And these two are indivisible. A good education is the only way that working people can get the best from our economy. And that goes beyond schools, especially for that young man. He's left the classroom behind. He's not sure what next. But he doesn't want to be sitting on mum and dad's sofa come September. He wants to get on, but without the right support, he could so easily slip into stagnation. Retreating into a parallel life, days and nights spent alone in his bedroom, accessing all manner of material online, vulnerable to the toxic messages he finds there. As the months pass, hope disappears and anger seeps into the gaps. That's how our social fabric begins to fray. But it doesn't have to be that way. Our task is to help that young man claim a stake in our society. He needs top quality choices, a route into university or a great apprenticeship, like the apprentices I met at British Steel in Scunthorpe last month, who wouldn't have had that chance were it not for this Labour government stepping in and taking action to secure its future. And I am delighted that British Steel are now taking on their first apprentices in 3 years. For our man, an apprenticeship is the chance to learn a trade, to earn the respect of his friends, to feel a part of something. That's why we're revitalising apprenticeships for young people in this country, widening access, adding flexibility, more people earning and learning, adding to their prosperity and our country's growth. Because that's the win-win of investing in skills. It backs working people and it drives our economy forward. Because you know that if we don't back you, then houses aren't built, children aren't taught, patients miss out, our country doesn't get the change it needs. The change to make work pay. That is not the work of one single department, but of the entire government. Investing not just in top skills for working people, but in good jobs for working people. Not just here and there, but in every town and in every city in our country. And routes into those good jobs through a revitalised skills system, working as one with our industrial strategy. That's why we're developing a comprehensive plan for post-16 education and skills. For a new future of skills, a new future of work, clear and coherent support when and where it is needed. Our movement has always supported training and retraining in times of change. Working people have always been ready to hold up to their end of the deal. Now, government must hold up to ours and cement good, secure jobs in legislation through the Employment Rights Bill. Proof of the transformative change of which our movement is capable. Fair pay for a fair day's work. No more exploitative zero-hours contracts. No more flexibility for one side but not the other. Instead, a baseline of security for workers. Day one rights, sick pay, family rights, bereavement leave, strong collective rights that give workers a stronger collective voice fit for the modern world. That is our promise. That if people work for this country will work for them. And we're leading from the front in our schools, with the school support staff negotiating body. At long last, once more, a direct voice for our fantastic school support staff. Our caretakers, our catering staff, our teaching assistants, the people that bind our school communities together. And make no mistake, they will be properly recognised and rewarded for the vital work they do. That's the progress this country needs. And for adult social care workers too. It can be a hard job, long hours, tough terms. But Congress, show me a job with more value and show me a workforce with more heart, overlooked until now. And that's why the Employment Rights Bill will also deliver an historic fair pay agreement in social care. But Congress, what about that young man's baby sister? What kind of Britain are we building for her and for little girls everywhere? As Minister for Women and Equalities, I am deeply proud of the progress this government has already made. Hard won, hand in hand with women's groups and trade unions. That little girl deserves to grow up in a Britain where she gets every opportunity that her brother does. So Congress, we're acting. With our plan to make work pay, we'll make gender pay gap action plans mandatory. It's not enough just for employers to know about the gender pay gap, we're making them tackle it. And for disabled and ethnic minority workers too, rooting out pay discrimination wherever we find it. Going further, reviewing parental leave, strengthening protections against sexual harassment at work. And I'm delighted to say that for the first time, this government will commence the socio-economic duty so that people from backgrounds like mine, backgrounds like yours, are never forgotten. So that when public authorities make strategic decisions, they'll have to consider how they can ease the inequalities that still blight our communities. On women's rights, on workers' rights, on life chances, the choice we face is a simple one. Forward with Labour to shape the 2030s, or dragged back with Reform and Nigel Farage to the 1950s. Reform whose leader told women that maternity leave was lunacy, that maternity pay was excessive, that women coming back from maternity leave and earning life was simply a fact of life, and that those women were worth far less to their employers. For the good of our country, we choose to go forward, not back. And Congress, make no mistake, let there be no doubt. 1 year ago, we were elected to deliver this employment rights bill, and Congress, that is what we will do. We will not accept any watering down by the Lords. Forward with the employment rights bill in full. No ifs, no buts, forward. Let's change this country together. For that young man, for his baby sister, for working class communities across our country, £8 billion of investment in early years, free breakfast clubs, reaching almost 80,000 children in our most deprived communities, free school meals for 500,000 more children, higher standards in our schools, stronger rights for workers, better choices for parents and freedom for families, a new wave of opportunity. Congress, this is what real change looks like, the kind that both feeds off and fuels our belief in better. Building a cycle of hope, not hostility. And the chance to work with you to deliver that change is the greatest privilege of my life. It's why the worst day in government is still better than the best day in opposition. It's why no matter how hard the challenges, no matter how tough the choices, what drives me forward every day is the brighter future our children and our country deserve. And we get there, Congress, through the politics not of fear and hatred, but of hope and justice. So I ask you to continue to work with us on the good days and the bad, to keep up the fight in our towns, in our cities, in all of our workplaces, to build a country of which we can all be proud. Together, we can restore opportunity and hope to working people and build a stronger Britain. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your speech, Bridget. And as you know, we are committed to working together to achieve more for working class communities and to take forward equality. Can also add, on a personal level, I think I love your mum. Strong. Thank you. The Secretary of State has agreed to take questions. We will be taking questions in small groups. I invite Paul Nowak to introduce our first questions, Paul.
Okay, thanks, President. I'm going to ask Lynn Pollard from the GMB, Sahira Chowdhury, a Unison member, Maria Chandragani from UCU, she's the UCU President, Rachel Knight, an English teacher and an NSUWT member, and Marika Miles, who's a head teacher and a member of the executive of the National Association Head Teacher, to come forward. They're over there to ask their questions, and then the Secretary of State will respond once all the questions have been asked. So, Lynn, over to you.
Thank you. Stick with me, I'm severely dyslexic, so... as a school convener, I have dealt with staff leaving because they feel undertrained, underpaid and unappreciated. We welcome Labour's pledge to value and recognise the professionalism of the school support workforce through the SSSMB. Will you commit to ensuring all support staff get the same fair pay, terms, conditions, so that every worker is and feels valued?
Unison welcomes your commitment to reinstating the SSSMB, but do you agree as part of that work it's essential that we have a consistent national approach to how school staff are paid and their jobs are evaluated, regardless of whatever type of school they work for?
Bridget, thank you for the opportunity to ask a question on behalf of all UCU members. The Tories introduced a failed marketized model across education, in schools, further education, adult education, prison education, higher education. This has been disastrous. How and when do you intend to revise it? Maria Chandragyani, UCU President.
Rachel.
Hello, Bridget. Rachel Knight. I'm an English teacher in Salford and an SUWT member. Teachers in academies, like workers in outsourced services, often lack guaranteed trade union recognition. Will you make union recognition a condition of all public funding and contracts so workers in every sector have a voice at work?
And then, finally in this section, Marika.
Hello. You indicated that you will set out a bold vision for the future of education in your forthcoming white paper, with the centrepiece of that being SEND reform. What reassurance can you give Congress, all the educators and support staff, all the parents and grandparents in this room, that the government's plans will properly take account of the views of and pressures on educators, command the confidence of the electorate, and not fold at the first cry of outrage from the right-wing press who so love to insult education professionals?
Thanks. Over to you, Bridget.
Thank you so much, and thank you for a range of questions on a number of topics. To begin with the school support staff negotiating body, I am so proud that we've moved so rapidly as a government to make that a reality and to start that process. And the reason we do it is for all of the reasons that you set out, about making sure that all of our support staff have a minimum standard and expectations around terms and conditions and pay. But alongside that, the reason I do it too is every school I visit in the country, every school leader I speak to, they say to me, were it not for the amazing teaching assistants, cleaners and catering staff, they couldn't do their job and they couldn't deliver for their children and their communities. It's why we will make sure it does cover all schools, and we will make sure there are clear expectations about what is necessary. Maria, in terms of the wider question you asked around higher education and other areas, in terms of our universities, I believe our universities are one of our country's greatest strengths, not just for young people moving away from home at 18, but often in communities like mine, the chance for adults to return to education, often later on in their lives, maybe after starting a family, and the chance to retrain. It's why what you will have seen from this Labour government is a different approach, an end to the culture wars in our universities and a focus on what we need to deliver for our students and for our staff. And in children's social care, I'm really proud of the work that we're already doing to make sure that private providers don't see excess profits as a result of vulnerable children. Vulnerable children, often who've been through the most traumatic experiences that no one could imagine, who haven't had a voice, who haven't had the support that they need for the longest time. And that's alongside the changes that we're bringing in to support foster carers and kinship carers too. But we are driving big reform in children's social care, because I don't think it's right to leave it to the market, and I don't find it comfortable to see that excess profiteering at the expense of vulnerable children. In terms of collective bargaining and union recognition, the changes that we're bringing forward through the Employment Rights Bill will make that a lot easier. And on special educational needs and disabilities, I can absolutely give that reassurance, because there is no responsibility I take more seriously than to our children with SEND and to their families. I've heard so many stories from right across our country, from our workforce, from our parents, about how we were left behind a system that is failing children on so many levels. Everything that we will do to reform the system of support for children with SEND will be rooted in one principle, that is better life chances and better outcomes for children with SEND. And I'm making sure that I'm already spending lots of time talking to parents, talking to our workforce, to our trade unions, and also disabled rights groups to make sure we get this right. It is an immense responsibility, but it is the right thing to do. We cannot stand by as so many of our children do not get the support that they deserve.
Thanks, Bridget. We've now got a second group of questions. So we've got Heather Gillifan, who's an NHS worker and a Unite member, Nicola Hawkins, who's a member of the NEU, Julia Giorgio, who's the General Secretary at the NHBC Staff Association, Carla Jones-Charles, who's Director of Midwifery and an RCM member, and then finally, to round off our questions, Renata Birmingham, who's a USDOR rep at a large retailer. And they're going to ask questions ranging from AI in the workplace right through to the Employment Rights Bill. So, Heather, over to you first of all.
Thank you, Bridget. We heard your announcement at the end there about the Employment Rights Bill, but we're still deeply alarmed that the Employment Rights Bill has been repeatedly watered down, with the House of Lords slashing key rights, loopholes in rights for 0 hours workers, and the failure to outlaw fire and rehire, made worse by the government's amendment allowing the widespread use of fire and rehire in local government and across the public sector. Will this government guarantee this Congress that it will implement the bill in full?
Nicola?
Nicola, National Education Union. Artificial intelligence will impact many sectors of the economy, but often the impact on workers in how AI is used in education is overlooked. Can the Secretary of State guarantee that unions will be full partners in discussing frameworks for both how and why AI is used and how workers' rights will be protected?
Thank you, Nicola. Julia?
Thank you, Bridget. I'm a proud trans woman. Given the exclusionary nature on the original EHRC draft guidance, reportedly repeated in the revision that is now on your desk, what will you do to ensure the safety, dignity and human rights of trans people and trans workers in particular are upheld?
Carla?
Thank you. As Minister for Women and Equalities, the female workforce is a backbone of our public services, including in maternity care. But female workers are systematically discriminated against with a lack of availability of flexible working, particularly in the NHS, and career stalling if they take maternity leave or carers leave. Will the Secretary of State agree that this misogyny in public services must be addressed and ended as a priority?
Thank you, Carla. And then finally, for our questions, Renata.
Thank you. Hello, Bridget. The government has made welcome progress on expanding childcare provision, but it remains very difficult for low-paid workers in sectors like retail and distribution to access affordable childcare. Will the government develop a longer-term plan to make childcare universally available to all families?
Thank you, Renata. Bridget, over to you.
Great, thank you very much for those questions. Heather, first of all, no ifs, no buts, we will implement the bill in full. This will be the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, and this Labour government will deliver it. Nicola, around AI, absolutely I can give you that assurance. I think there are amazing opportunities that come of the use of technology, particularly in how we can tailor learning for children and how we can free up teacher and support staff time to really do those human face-to-face interactions that you can't expect of any technology. If harnessed correctly, if done properly, I think there is enormous potential. But I do, of course, recognise the concerns that you express. It's why, through improving education together, we will take this forward. We will work with our employers and our trade unions to get this right. We've also launched a call for evidence as a department to look more closely at this. But I agree this is a defining issue of our times, one that presents amazing opportunities, but where we have to make sure we get the balance right. Julia, around safety, dignity and human rights for trans workers, absolutely, now and always. Safety, dignity and respect is the cornerstone of our society. And trans people continue to enjoy the protection afforded through Labour's Equality Act, to not face prejudice or discrimination or harassment. And this Labour government will introduce a draft bill to make sure that we deliver a full trans-inclusive ban on conversion practices. We will also equalise all existing strands of hate crime legislation to protect trans people. I can give that absolute assurance. Around flexible working, rights at work, childcare and much more besides, the two final questions. I am so proud of what we are achieving already in terms of expanding childcare, both in terms of the hours available to parents, but also through expanding school-based nurseries, often in some of our most deprived communities where families will struggle to access childcare. But I completely recognise the challenge about making sure that we have a simpler, more straightforward system for all parents. And through our recently published Best Start in Life strategy, that's what I've committed to doing. And I do recognise the additional challenges and barriers that staff will face, often shift workers in some of the sectors that you mentioned. But that also has to go hand in hand with better rights at work, which we will deliver through the Employment Rights Bill, but also more flexible working opportunities and rights from day one. Because we know it's often women who lose out when they aren't available. We know it's often women who give up their jobs when childcare isn't there, where they can't get the place. I'm so proud of what we've achieved so far. I've made early years and provision for working women my priority, but there is a lot to do and we'll do it together.
Thank you, Bridget. We look forward to continue to working with you. Thanks again for good. Congress, we return to section 4 of the General Council report from page 46, meeting the challenges of the future, continued. I now call paragraph 4.5 and composite 13, Europe Matters. The General Council support the motion. It's going to be moved by Prospect, seconded by MU, Musicians Union, supported by UCU. Other speakers, I'm going to take equity in the debate. Prospect, please. Are you ready? No. Too quick. There we go.